We 100% believe in the genetic evaluation of data and genomic evaluation. 100% use that data to prove sires move forward as fast as they can. On the back end, then, the feedback has to come. We did more, we spent more. Our cattle rank in the top 1% of the evaluated population for profit and for numerous traits. Off the charts. Now we have to get more money for them. And that data-driven genetic improvement for the future, that's how that's what we need, and that's how we stay engaged.
Welcome to the Future of Beef Show, produced in partnership with Drovers and Breeder. This is the #1 podcast for progressive ranchers and feeders looking to run smarter, more profitable, next-generation operations. I'm your host, Jim Johnson, from the Brands and Barbed Wire podcast, joined by Dr. Jessica Sperber, feedlot specialist at the University of Nebraska, and Ian Wheal, founder of Breeder, the cattle tech company helping producers raise, track, and trade high-performing cattle. What does genetic selection look like when it's truly built around commercial success? In this episode, we sit down with Marty Ropp to explore how data, technology, and collaboration are driving more profitable and predictable future for the U.S. beef herd. As a founder of Allied Genetic Resources, Marty Ropp is one of the most experienced and respected voices in genetic strategy across the U.S. beef industry. This episode is sponsored by Corteva Agriscience. When weeds and brush get in the way, you'll find the solution at rangeandpasture.com. Marty, welcome to the Future of Beef Show.
Hi, Jim.
You doing all right?
Pretty good. I just had a nice sandwich. Relaxed. Do I look okay?
You look good.
Is anything in my teeth?
No, you look good. You look good. Well, we're glad to have you and looking forward to the episode. So, I've known you a long time, but maybe for the folks that don't know who Marty Ropp is, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Where do you want me to start?
Start at the beginning. Mizzou grad and went from there. Well, probably an important part of your story is probably how you grew up in the pig business, right?
Yeah, grew up in the pig genetics business, such as it was, and spent a little time at Bethel College in Kansas, and on to K-State, and then University of Missouri for masters. So, and that was in pig genetics, back when pig genetics was a little bit like beef genetics, as far as who produced them and developed them and how those genetics affected the industry.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do after that?
1998 came, and for those old enough that were in the pig business in 1998, they'll never forget 1998. But most of the folks that I worked with lost everything they did when pigs got to a nickel, and had an opportunity to move in the beef genetics business because of Dr. Jerry Lipsey that was at American Simmental. And he said, would you like to come work in the beef genetics business and take what you learned in the swine genetics business and apply it to what we do? And I said, I would love that opportunity. I loved it because I'm not interested in watching what happened in the pig business.
Mm-hmm. And so you were at American Simmental for
12 years.
12 years. That's where you and I would have first met.
Yep. And I left there in 2010 and started the Allied Genetics Research. I didn't even say it right.
No, it's your own business.
I lived in 2000. Allied Genetic Resources, and started that business in 2010, and moved home and been doing that ever since.
Okay. So tell us about AGR.
AGR was kind of an idea that I've been hatching for years, actually, since I was quite a young person, with the idea that genetics providers needed to do more than just what they were doing, which was making what they wanted to make and marketing them as the best genetics in the world. They needed to build closer relationships with their customers and ultimately become part of the food business, and part of the supply chain. And I actually started thinking about that when I was 13 or 14 years old, and finally, I think, learned enough and figured out enough what needed to happen that it was time to leave the breed association business and go on and do something else to maybe make the reality of a full service genetic provider, which has been talked about for 20 years. Try to make that something real. Try to actually do something with that thought process in mind.
So how did your growing up in the hog industry and seeing what happened influence your decision to go out on your own and start AGR?
I'll get the year wrong, but I was probably 15 years old, and we were selling genetics to the larger pork industry, and we were exporting genetics to Venezuela, Malaysia, and Japan, all over the world. And I was 15 years old.
And you were an independent.
I was an independent 15-year-old genetics provider who didn't know, anything from shampoo. No technology. I'd kind of gone to a few shows and we showed some pigs, and I was pretty sure I knew everything about pig genetics. And one day I woke up and realized I don't know anything about pig genetics, and we're sending genetics all over the world. This is not logical. And I'm a logical thinker. I said, this is really, really dumb. This is not sustainable, and it won't last. And then it didn't. And so I've been trying to apply that thought process to what I do in the beef industry ever since.
So maybe for our listeners that didn't grow up in the pig industry, what happened in 1998, and what happened to all the people that you talked about that lost their
Actually,
farms?
it's two prongs pretty much, because one of them is just about the pig genetics business. 1998 was about the entire pork industry.
Right.
The entire pork industry. Halfway through the year, I was at a program, and Dr. Ron Plain was speaking, and he said, I've got some bad news. He said, we've harvested over 50 million pigs in the first 6 months, and we're going to be over 100 million pigs for the year. And we only need, whatever the number was, 90 million or whatever it is. He says, the price of pigs in the open market is going to go to zero. And everybody kind of sat back and said, oh, if you really knew that, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. And he really knew it. Because by that point, there was enough pigs contracted at a certain price that the extra pigs, which is what most of us lived on, was selling the extra pigs. That price goes either above the market when they're short or way below the market when they're long. And so we suffered that in 1998. Again, market hogs were a nickel, 5 cents a pound, and cull livestock was free if you dropped them off. If you delivered them, they'd take them for nothing.
Wow.
And with you can't, nobody can survive that for, let alone when it happened for a whole year. The second issue was the seed stock business, was the genetics business, and we began to fail. I'm going to say the first time that I noticed it would have been in the early 80s, and didn't really know it. They used to bring some hybrid boars to the Illinois State Fair, Lucy's hybrid boars, and they put them in a little tent right over by Taft's and Fred's, over by the food tent, and we would walk by there and laugh at them. Like, nobody is going to buy boars this ugly, fine-boned, and horrible. We laughed, and within 10 or 15 years, they had those kind of hogs, other businesses, who used technology, made genetic improvement, and listened to customers, and worked with chains, and did all those things. They put the rest of us out of business. And all the people that I grew up with, they were my mentors. People that they're successful. They have boar sales, big boar sales, and female sales, and people come from all over. And commercial guys buy those boars and make money with those genetics. In a matter of about 15 years, that business or 20 years went from thriving to non-existent, because nobody employed any technology and nobody did anything with their customers. Mm-hmm. We just expected it to last forever.
Yeah. So fast forward now to AGR, you start your business to try to help make sure that things like that don't happen in the seed stock business and with your customers, right?
When I went to Simmental, that was what was in my head. I said, I'm not interested in watching everybody fail again. And so, you can't change things overnight. You learn, you meet people, you build relationships, you work with options that look like they're going to help people be more successful and help the industry be more successful. And then if you learn your lessons and move forward, then you can maybe go start something like Allied. I say we're going to focus on our customer success. And if our customers and our customers' customers are successful, then as a business, we'll be successful.
We know the best in the beef industry watch this show, so we want to hear from you. We'll pick one listener to win this exclusive Future of Beef Yeti cooler. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram, send us your guest ideas, or just drop us a message. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
And Marty, just for those that don't know Allied, because I know a number of you have known you personally, but, and obviously you and Jim go a long way. But when you started Allied, was it the seed stock business, the auction? You've got multifaceted business now in terms of how you help everyone from commercial to seed stock and right the way through. Like, what was the first product offering, and then where's that expanded to?
Sure.
Since then,
I'll start with like this. It's a member-owned. The original Allied business and All Beef and Allied Feeding Parts, all of them are member-owned LLCs. And so folks invested in that business. They own part of the business. The people that benefit from it most own the business, which is, I think a benefit. And with the idea of, you have to do certain things to fund the business, and certain things, that funding allows you to do some of the more important things that are harder to fund. There are certain things that are easy to sell and certain things that are not easy to sell. But the idea being, if we could create seed stock with an absolute advantage for value, then that would help our marketing division market those seed stock for more money. And it would help our feeder cattle marketing division market the feeder cattle for more money because they were genetically more valuable. And we could take those funds and then pile them back into research and development and service, data services, all the different things that we do to create the next generation of more valuable ones. And again, reinvest that money in sort of a full circle approach to customer service and genetic improvement.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's been the big thing in the beef industry, is quite often people are breeding these genetics and then sell them as a commodity. But the way you've managed to tie that all together to sort of the value is not just in improving the genetics, but in the value obviously you get for those genetics as it comes out, both on the feeder and the seed stock. And it's,
you have to find a way.
You have to find a way to market
people,
them,
just telling people these genetics are better, and then not doing anything and them not seeing any value creation is has been one of the walls to genetic improvement. Is that, well, we did everything you told us to, and we got the same price for our calves as our neighbor did, who didn't do anything. And that without that feedback loop, it becomes difficult to fund the next generation of genetic improvement.
So what does the data collection look like then in those scenarios? So say that you guys are selecting a terminal bull for an operation to utilize. Is there opportunity within your system to track those cattle all the way through, or who are you working with, or what does data collection look like?
That's a great question. It's not good enough. Among our seed stock providers, among our owners, which is now about 100 seed stock providers, their commitment to data collection and use is high. They generate a substantial amount of the data used in several of the breed association evaluations and used in what we do. Very good at it, professional, and we actually have a division, the Data Genie division, that's with Leoma and Heidi within the Allied system. That's their job, is to help people make their data more valuable, because the more thoroughly it's collected, the better the contemporary groups, the cleaner and more complete it is, the more value it has not only to them but to us. So that part of things is good. We do collect commercial data when it's available, but it's part of the reason I'm here talking to these folks is because we want to do a better job of that. We need more commercial data, particularly on the terminal side. More commercial data to drive our evaluations forward, the things we do on our genomics division, and ultimately the way we interface the larger beef industry. Because it's our commercial clientele's, you can guess, but it's somewhere between 1 million and 1.5 million commercial cows that our owners interface, whether or not they buy all their genetics from them or some of their genetics from them. But that's a large pool and a huge opportunity, I think, for us, especially if we can tie that data loop back in with some of them. In this business, and even in my business, even though we sell 10,000 bulls a year, and we're directly involved on the marketing side of about somewhere between maybe a third of those, something like that. And yet you have to start with large numbers because this is a very independent industry. And so the number of people that are really willing to coordinate and get fully involved is much lower than what you'd hope for in the whole. Some of the rest of them do some do almost nothing, and some are really committed to the system. And it'd be the same way, we talk about the size of the commercial customer base. You could only hope to coordinate in the short term, maybe 10 or 20%, maybe, because the rest of them are still going to do what they've always done. There's opportunities. Somebody sold their cattle last year and made a living doing it, and they're not interested in that changing.
Now, when you say, we talked about this at dinner last night, but when you say the data is valuable and the better data they collect is valuable, is someone going to come and pay for that data? Or like, I know you and I probably we agree on this, but, when you say that, what should a producer be thinking when someone says your data is valuable?
Well, first of all, the data is necessary and valuable. But again, if you can't feed that into a system, into a system that pays for improvement down chain, then that data is only valuable from a cost reduction, studying your ability to evaluate your enterprise and your cost reduction, and not really from an industry participation standpoint. So we talk a lot about data. Well, I've got a lot of carcass data. Well, did your customers get any more for their feeder calves last year? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So was it valuable or was it not valuable? Down chain is, we've seen what the difference, in carcass cutouts from a value standpoint in marbling. We've made tremendous progress in that. But the average commercial cattle person that you talk to has not been paid for that improvement. Some within systems, and again, that's what we're working on, is a system, so that ultimately you'll do what you're paid to do.
And that's what we've noticed is like, it's not about the data, it's the insight it can deliver you to drive change, or the insight your customer can get to pay more for those cattle and be able to do it better. And I think, I do worry sometimes with data is like, it's valuable, so someone should pay me for my data. But it's never, I've never seen that happen. It never will happen as far as I'm concerned. It's like, this is about how you use it to run your own business.
Yeah.
So.
You're going to have to find a way. You're going to have to find a way to create value with that data. And we were just talking about it a few minutes ago, but data is also has a shelf life. 5-year-old data, not very valuable, particularly if you're using the right genomic evaluations and things like that have already accounted for it. That data has already helped train the system. Only the new data is valuable. So it's not something you lock up in a safe and say, well, I've got all that data back in that safe. That does not create any value.
Yeah, I remember having a conversation with a purebred guy, and they wanted to sell all their data. Wanted to have a value to it. And I said, look, the best thing you can do is plug that data into a system that rewards your customers and your book and your bull suppliers, right? In adding value to their calves, right? If you have a system that adds value to the calves, your data and the price of your bulls will go up, and that data has a much greater value there,
yes,
than it ever would just selling it to a company,
yes.
Right? And so I think that's, within what you do and what your company does is helps your owners do things that they either can't afford to do or don't have the time to do, right? Add value to what they're doing. And the other thing I think I'd like to say is we have price discovery on the seed stock side. There are bulls that bring more than other bulls, for reasons that are genetic merit or whatever that is.
And
right?
groups and populations of bulls too.
Right.
Yes.
And then we have price discovery on the fat side, grid pricing and everything else. So animals are worth more. But we sell a lot of feeder calves for about the same price.
Yeah.
And it's like that is going to change. That is going to change.
It's got to. Why invest in the genetics?
And
right.
I didn't want to get into this, but I'm going to get into it anyway. That's because that's what I do.
It didn't take Jim long.
That's what I do.
I know where to plug those.
So if you believe in the fact that all animals have a value, and if you believe that based on the price of food, of fuel and feed and price of meat and the price of labor, price of everything, that a 700-pound steer, all the 700-pound steers in the United States are worth this, or have an average price of this much, whatever that is. Right now, it's a lot. Right now, maybe it's $2,200. I don't know. This podcast hopefully will be dated. Next year will be $3,200. I doubt that, but so they have a value. It's $2,200. Some of them are worth $3,000. And some of them are worth less than, well, some of them are worth, the ones that aren't going to make it are worth $0. But some of them maybe are worth $1,200. Yeah. So, and I think that's probably out of line, probably $400 plus or minus on the extremes. Now, our marketing systems work on commission, which means the more that you sell, the more commission that you get, and the happier your Christmas is for you and your family. So if I found animals that really were, absolutely worth $100 more an animal, which is very possible, as a group, that's 700 pounds. That's a $15 premium.
Yeah.
So if you believe in the fundamentals, which the system does, whether or not we think so or not, every group of animals that brings $15 over average means that another group of animals has to bring $15 under.
Ever wondered if you could be getting more out of your cattle?
Breeder is the first technology company that's able to track and optimize cattle from conception all the way to the rail.
This puts the power of data into the hands of the rancher and enables them to improve their profit line quicker than they ever have before.
My decision to partner with Breeder was made largely after seeing a demo where I realized what Breeder's doing is unlike anyone else in our industry. Connecting the data from the packing plant back to the feedlot, the stocker backgrounders, and the cow-calf, even connecting that data to the purebred breeder, will just open the door to improvement at a scale and a speed that we have never seen in this industry before.
I believe Breeder's putting ranchers in the driver's seat. We can make breeding decisions based on large amounts of data very quickly. The calves that are produced, they have a higher cutout value, their ribeyes are more profitable, and it plays back to us.
As I'm out around the country, people are asking me about Breeder, and I always recommend Breeder. It's the tool for the future.
Head to breeder.co and book a demo with the team today.
And when you're trying to keep customers, which we are trying to keep customers, the ones that we sold them for $15 over the market, are we going to get to keep them as a customer?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You hope so. Anyway.
Yeah, they love us. And the ones that got $15 under the market, are we going to get to keep them as a customer?
They're going to go shopping.
No chance in the world. And so now I only got half the commission that I got last year because I only sold half as many calves that day. So the system is set up. I'm going to say it on camera. The system is set up to sell the bottom end, to buffer the pain of selling the bottom end. The system is not based on trying to maximize the top end. And I don't like that. I've never liked it. I don't get to make those decisions unless you own them farther down chain. And the farther down chain you own them, the less that matters.
Well,
and the more premiums matter.
And we've seen guys who have paid the $10, $15 extra, and they've made more money on those cattle, even though they've paid than they made on the ones they bought at market or just over.
Yes. But again, fundamentally, that's how the system works. Fundamentally, they're all worth this much on the average based on all the factors in the world that you guys with big data systems can figure out, and I can't. And so some of them are worth more, some of them are worth less. But for every one that brings more, another one's got to bring less. And if they don't bring less, then these can't bring more. And that's an issue. So if you really have cattle that ultimately have a tremendous amount of value, the longer you own them, the better off you are. Or whoever purchased them, the better off they are.
It's interesting, and you did say it, but I'm
gonna take some heat from my friends.
It's all good. I think that's right. I mean, it's a system that we've all sort of known has issues, and a lot of us would love to see it evolve. And I think there are opportunities for it to do that, right? And I think
you see it. I mean, you see it.
Absolutely.
More data, more information about the animals, more logos stuck on the bottom. They're creating more premium, but at the same time, the ones that below average, once they get to a certain point, someone else is going to be involved in those.
Yeah, and then there's an element of like, how do you bring up the bottom end? Like, how do you help people who are in that situation where they did get $15 less, and how do you make sure next year they're getting market or above the market, and help them with that learning curve?
That's all of our jobs.
Yeah,
that's all of our jobs.
So, and it's I think taking it back though to pigs. I mean, people could hear this and be like, okay, well, you're going to go down this line. The only way I'm going to get more is I'm in a vertical supply chain. How do we not? None of us want to end up like where the pig industry ended up. We want to keep the independence. We all want to have individual producers going through that chain. How do we help stop that happen, but still, produce the best beef that we could produce?
I think, first of all, it starts like everything starts. It starts in the genetics business. And we did not have professional genetics providers. We had nice people that raised a nice hog. And because they were the best, instantly, because they were the best managers and the best caretakers, everybody wanted their pigs to look like their pigs. And so they went and bought pigs from them. Cattle was no different. Whoever had the most beautiful cattle in the neighborhood, the neighbors stopped in and bought them, and pretty soon they became a seed stock provider. Whether they were genetically better or not, that's just how the system worked. And in the pig genetics business, there was no mechanism to use data, genetic improvement. The timing wasn't good, wasn't right for genomics and things like that. But we refused to use data, almost refused, because we knew what a good pig looked like. Now, sometimes that many was big, sometimes that many was small. Sometimes many had long ears, sometimes many had short ears. Sometimes many had big feet, little feet, big tails, little tails. Silliness. We selected them on silliness and called ourselves genetics providers for the pork industry. Literally all based on conversations in a barn.
So, Marty, what would be, for like genetics companies, what would be the signals that help you as genetics providers decide these are the bulls that we need to go after? These are the ones that we need to have at the studs. Where are the signals coming from?
First of all, we 100% believe in the genetic evaluation of data and genomic evaluation. 100%. Essentially 100% of our members use that on every animal that they have to do genomic work on them, collect all the data on them, use that data to prove sires, move forward as fast as they can. More of them, the highest percentage of them now use our genomic work with Dr. Saatchi and Dr. Tate to make precision matings to try to speed up the rate of genetic improvement. So we're working very hard on that end. On the back end, then the feedback has to come in that we did more, we spent more. Our cattle rank in the top 1% of the evaluated population for profit and for numerous traits, off the charts. Now we have to get more money for them. And that's part of what we do. What our marketing arm does is help them get more money for, and the proof has been that they are getting more money for those, and more people are paying attention to it. More systems are paying attention to it. More commercial cattlemen are paying attention to it, and that data-driven genetic improvement for the future that's what we need, and that's how we stay engaged.
Also, it's aligning with feed yards collecting a lot more data and a lot more individual data now that we've seen. I think sometimes these commercial cow-calf producers sell the cattle into a lot. They think it's blended into a pen and off they go. The number of feed yards now, they're individually tracking the source of those cattle and how they perform on feed and how they perform on the rail is like huge.
They know more about your cattle than you do.
And you want to know more
from
about
a terminal standpoint.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of that is, and we never talk about it, and we don't talk about it in public hardly, because it's not as sexy. And that is the other half of genetic improvement is reducing costs. Matter of fact, it's more than half. Seeking premiums and making a better product and seeking gross income is, that's part of genetic improvement. Most of those traits are fairly highly heritable, easy to measure, easy to fix. But the other side of things, are we doing enough at the ranch level to help ranchers reduce costs so that when prices don't come up, they can still remain profitable or be more profitable? And so that feedback loop is not closed. You're doing a nice job, and lots of organizations do a nice job of the feedback loop on the terminal end. They're partial budgets. Feedlot budgets are partial budgets. They're easy to keep track of. Cowherd profitability budgets are not partial budgets, and they are.
That's assuming you got one.
They are yes, they're challenged, but we measure those traits. We do as much as we can, but finding ways to get return information to do a better job of that's really important too. We don't talk about it's. And I've written articles about it, but we can't even sell maternal traits because the marketing line is buy my bulls, and 10 years from now you're going to be deliriously happy. 10 years? I don't even know if I'm going to be in the business in 10 years. You'll be so happy with the daughters of these bulls 10 years from now when the daughters are 4 to 8 years old. You're going to be tickled. Versus, I'm going to sell you this bull and your calves are going to be 20 pounds heavier next year.
So Marty, I think Ian maybe asked it earlier, but tell us a little bit about the growth of AGR, your other enterprises, and some of the things you do, and then how many people are involved with your business now.
Sure. We've got about 100 owners. I think maybe 105 or 6 owners now with the 3 businesses. The original Allied business is the service business. And our genomics division, feeder calf marketing division, semen company, data division. I'm going to forget somebody. But those primary customer service pieces are built into the original Allied business. The customers would sell, our owner customers would sell about 10,000 bulls a year, maybe closer to 11 now, but somewhere in that ballpark. That's the core business. It's 15 years old, and it was a new concept when it started. Now it seems old hat to me almost. We keep adding things, but there's 11 employees total, I believe, with myself, if I count everybody right. And everybody's division, even though they have certain things that they do, all the divisions work together. Because when one division's stronger, it makes the other division stronger. The marketing management division, I forgot about those guys. The marketing management, and they do sale management and marketing management, old school services that have been done for years and years, but they sell a product that's better, and that makes their life easier and better, and makes their customers more successful.
There's nothing greater than seeing your cattle grazing on lush green pasture.
Oh yeah, and nothing ruins that view like weeds and brush soaking up all the moisture and nutrients. Regardless of precipitation, we have to take care of our pastures. It doesn't rain grass.
The passion for cattle ranching starts early. So should the protection. Let's keep our pastures in good hands with Corteva Agriscience. To learn more, visit rangeandpasture.com.
The second business was all beef, and it too is a member-owned business, a partial subset of the originals plus new members, and that's a genetics ownership business. With their goal of being, if we need access to the best genetics in the world, evaluated by third party, evaluated through our genomics division, from in a marketable kind of a package with all the bells and whistles, and we need access. Those bulls cannot be closed up in semen packages and can only be used by this system or only used by that system. We need access to those animals. And so this business owns those animals. And we've got about 60 or 70 stud bulls and about 40 donor cows. And those cows and sires feed not only the all beef system, but they also help feed the Allied system and always pushing for the next generation to move ahead faster and faster and faster. So that's the second one. And then we start Allied Feeding Partners, which is a small cattle feeding business. Feed 1,000, 1,200 animals a year. Customer service, we purchase them from our customers, do benchmarking, helps us with downstream relationships, helps us do price support for those cattle that can have more genetic value. And so that part of the business has been that's been an eye-opener for me. And for some of our folks, we'd love to double the size, triple the size of that business. You know how it is, though. It's just about how much capital.
Yeah, I mean, we did the same.
This year, I wish I had 1 million cattle on feed.
Yeah, I know. Just not buying them right now.
No, bought
them last
7-8 months ago, and that were because things.
You'd be wearing that Hawaiian shirt you had on last night all the time
in Hawaii.
That's right.
Yeah, not in Texas.
That would be the only difference. Was I'd be wearing my Hawaiian shirt in Hawaii. But no, that business has been really good. Clint Berry is the managing partner of that business, and I'm managing partner of the other two. And again, our staff, fabulous staff. If you see any of them on the street, just say hi, and they'll help you do whatever you need to have done. And it's great having a staff that I don't worry about where they are. I don't worry about what they're doing because I know that they're having a positive impact somewhere and moving our business forward, whatever it is that they're doing today.
And then talk a bit about what's been interesting is I've got to know your business, and originally it was through Leoma with all the data work she'd been doing and sort of integrated with Breeder. But what's been really interesting is everyone in your network's using genomics. What you've then done, and talk a bit about how many of those commercial producers are now also using genomics, and then some of the more recent innovations you're doing. Because what I love about it is Jim's in the room, so probably shouldn't say, but genomics has generally been given back a big spreadsheet, which a lot of ranchers would sit there and be like, what do I do with this? But you guys have managed to really drive some intelligent, actionable items out of that and have some really cool products that you've brought out in the market in the last while.
Yeah, the key is that investment in genomics by itself does not drive any profitability. Yeah, those genomics have to be used in tools and actionable tools that you can take advantage of immediately, so that your initial investment can come to something bigger. In the seed stock industry, that was an easier sell because you piled them. You did nice. You brought the genomics in, put them right into the genetic evaluation. It affected the EPDs, changed the value of certain animals, and allowed you to make progress faster. That was a fairly simple sell. Although Jim will say, well, it wasn't that simple. It took a long time. But once that became the standard, now, even though there are some producers that don't use genomics, and I don't even know where the planet they live on, but there are. Everybody else, that's become the standard. And one of the most beautiful thing about genomics is the more that you use them, the better the evaluation gets. It's hard. It's almost hard to fathom. Well, you mean the genomic evaluation for EPDs now is better than it was 5 years ago? Light years better. And 5 years from now, it'll be better than it is today. It learns. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize. Because some of the first genomic evaluations weren't they're like, people are like, what? That didn't. So anyway, that part of things is just a given. And breeders were used to using data to market their products with. I mean, it was not a hard sell. But then we tried to move genomics into the commercial sector. Folks that don't use a lot of data, that manage cattle in groups instead of individually. And that maybe don't have a direct conduit to drive profitability back from those genomics. On the sales side, they actually have a bigger opportunity on the cost side. But we didn't talk to them that much about that. We talked to them about how it's going to make their marbling, how the cattle are going to be 99% choice if they do this, which they were happy about. But ultimately, there was no profit feedback loop in that kind of a conversation. And we tried to sell them, we'd send them a spreadsheet with 1,000 cows with 14 columns they're actually EPDs. They're genomic scores, but they're actually molecular breeding bias. They're EPDs, just like companies said, well, all those EPDs are confusing. And then they generate EPDs. And literally a commercial producer just looks down this sheet and I spent $15,000 to get this.
What am I going to do with this?
What do I do with it? And they didn't come with instructions. It didn't come with answers. It came with data. Valuable data. I'm not going to argue that's valuable data. But if you don't have some way to use that to make decisions that's simple, then you won't get value for it. And since they don't manage cows individually, their ability to squeeze value out of it with individual data was tougher. So we've created our most recent product, the Right Bull product, takes a group of females and genomically combines them, essentially makes a composite female. Says if all the females in that mob were one cow, this is what she'd be like. This is where she's weak. This is where she's strong. And knowing that, we can go into a group of bulls where we have the genomics and evaluation and rank those bulls for that particular customer as to these are the bulls you should consider buying and these are the bulls you should not consider buying. These are just going to add to your issues. These are going to solve problems. And depending on the decisions you've made in the past and depending on what your goals are, which we go through their goals as well, it might be lot 1 and it might be lot 121. It might be the best bull for them. And it's going to be different in different herds. And it allows them to manage cows in groups and purchase the seed stock they need to purchase. So seed stock provider provides the genomic information on the bulls. We help the commercial producer either genotype all the cows or a 25% subset of the commercial cows, either by mob or by herd. If they want to do their heifers separately, a lot of times we focus on the young cows because the genomics have 6 or 8 or 10 years of value versus the old cows where the genomics only have a year or 2 of value. And move forward. They walk in the bull sale with a list of bulls, of 20 bulls that they should look at. And 20 bulls or 40 bulls they should never look at.
How many times they buy the ones on the list they didn't look? No.
Almost, I mean, literally, it's not that big. Not that big a set. Maybe only 20, 25 commercial herds because we've been beta testing this for about a year. They buy one of the top 10 bulls on the list almost every time.
In that scenario, then, does it give a recommendation of if you bought that bull, now you're going to mate it to this cow, and you should keep a heifer from her? Or because it's just the general genome of the herd, how do you decide replacement heifers then?
So we can do 2 things. And with some of the herds we've already moved into this status. And that is we've now separated if they're capable of doing this, we'll separate the herd into a terminal herd and a maternal herd. And the terminal herd will get different recommendations of bulls than the maternal herd. And even though you could go out there with genomics and find some nice replacement heifers because of how genes segregate and come back and forth, it's low probability of finding replacements in that herd and a high probability of finding the maternal herd, because we're also going to breed those to what we call G+ bulls, maternal-oriented bulls, that match those cows. And over time, there will be more, and it'll be easier and easier to keep replacement heifers out of the maternal herd with making those decisions. And the terminal herd, it's just like, don't look at them. They're like poisonous fruit. But there's some big stout heifers in there. I know. And they belong in a feed yard. That's where they're going. And also, you don't have to sample DNA from them, because we're not going to keep any of those. So that's the easiest way to separate the two. For herds that are going to keep their, maybe a single mob, or they're going to keep then they have to keep track of maternal traits in every purchase, or at least the maternal genes that they're weak on. Maybe they've got enough built in that we can use a little more terminal in this particular herd and still maintain the kind of maternal prowess and cost cutting that we'd like to do. The other things I didn't mention, the other things is the program is built to evaluate the genomic inbreeding, not the pedigree inbreeding, but the genomic inbreeding, and keep negative pressure on that, especially for commercial herds, is crucial, especially if they've been buying their bulls from the same provider forever. They need to evaluate, say, these bulls are, even though you're buying them from the same source, these bulls give you enough genetic diversity where you can do some things. And then the results will be a calf crop that's more like what you want, and the uniformity difference is easy.
So if I'm a 70-head commercial cow-calf guy listening to this right now, they would need to get all of their females on the operation genetically tested.
They could, or like I said, we could sample them. We could do 25 of them. It's the more you do, the better the information is. But if you do a nice random sample, you'll get a pretty good idea of what that commercial herd's like.
And then let's say now we're in October and they're getting ready to sell. What would be the signals for them that they had that doing all of this and selecting bulls in this way, right? We're 2 years down the road now after their genetic analysis. They're 2 years down the road. They're getting ready to sell calves. What would be the biggest signals for them? Like literally just selling more pounds of weight after weaning, or what would be other signals that they could look for to understand value coming back from an expense that they had to put in 2 years prior?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We'll find it in multiple ways. One thing we've noticed right off the bat, and actually we're gonna fund a couple studies this coming fall, is that we're getting higher conceptions by avoiding wasted matings, by avoiding negative genomic combinations. And that part of things, I don't, which we can talk about it until we actually run it through, but it's been pretty obvious from the conversations we have. So our conception rates have gone up. Our AI conception rates have gone up when they're precision made, when they're prescribed matings versus when we use bulls that weren't prescribed. And I think it's because some of the large effect genes that Marty works with may have a kind of a subclinical genetic defect kind of genes. If they retard growth postpartum, they probably retarded growth prepartum too. So there's some of those kind of things. The uniformity difference will be obvious in the first deal because your knothead calves, they go away. Now, in a commercial situation, we're not going to get every cow precision, but in AI situations, the bottom end calves go away. So they'll see that right off the bat. Calving difficulty, if we do individuals for virgin heifers, very, 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 very uniform set of calves. Get rid of some of the small ones and the big ones both, which I think is another nice piece. So those are the things that they'll see immediately. What they won't see immediately is the maternal things. And we think that's where the most value is. But again, it's difficult to sell because it's year 6. And we've been doing this since 2018. And those first herds that have done it, they get it. Their 3, 4, and 5-year-old cows dominate their old cows, which is pretty good. And we use EPDs to validate it. We actually use the data that they turn into the breed associations, whatever else, and watch the improvement, the increased rate of improvement. That's not for commercial herds, but for seed stock herds, the increased rate of genetic improvement, we let somebody else validate that so that we don't say that we did it. But those are the kind of things they could expect right off the bat.
So, Marty, for people listening that aren't part of AGR, that are interested in what you're talking about, how do those people participate in something like this? If they're interested, can they participate in yours, or how does all that work? Right.
First misconception. Everybody can work with HER. Just like we don't own part of Breeder, but we can still work with Breeder even though we don't own them. So yeah, we're a service company first, and we literally work with hundreds and hundreds of people that are not our owners. We just had to have the ownership base to fund the company to get it started so we could do the things we do. So you contact myself, one of the other Allied employees. Everybody in our group knows what's going on. You could call our bookkeeper, and he could tell you how to get started. I mean, that's how much communication we have within the group. And we start you down that process, put you in touch with someone to help you get started on your genotyping. And because it takes, and by the time from the day that you order your TSUs and schedule a time to run your cow shoot, you know how long it takes, Jim. It's on best case scenario, 6 weeks. Worst case scenario, depending on the mail and some of those things, might be 2 months. So you've got to get started. And it takes about 2 weeks on the average to be in the queue with Top Genomics, to be in the queue to get your results. So very safe at 2 months. Not very safe at 6 weeks, but still possible.
And when should producers think about taking that TSU? At branding, at weaning? When do you suggest it's a great idea? I mean, at birth?
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. But again, we think about seed stock folks. We've got to quit thinking that way when we're doing something like Right, because we do the Right Mate programs and things like that. Seed stock folks run their cows. They have contact with their cows a lot. Commercial herds run through the chute twice a year. And so one of those times is the best time. They're not going to reschedule a time to run cows through the chute. They're going to do it on their schedule. So if they want to do something next spring, when they work cows this fall, pre-check cows this fall, that's when they need to do it.
Yeah, I tell people the earlier you take a DNA test and get it in, the more decisions you have the opportunity to make based on it, right? And so I think it's, like you said, tomorrow. I mean, the best time is as early as you can do it in the life of that animal. And then after that, you have the opportunity to make more decisions based off of it.
And it probably depends when you're selling calves as well. If you're selling them at weaning, you want to get that tissue sample 6 weeks before weaning.
Yes,
So
especially if you're going to use it for any of the marketing part of things. And we can sort we're big proponents of doing the young females. Again, I talked about it before. We can help you sort those too. In a very, very simple, we talk about this all the time. We try to provide answers instead of questions. So it says, here is the answer. The answer is yes. The answer is no. Instead of, we have some, I mean, a lot of our producers want to make more decisions. So the tools are also there. They can look through all the data and make all the tools. But so many of the folks we work with now are so covered up with details and all the things that they have to do. We talked about the other day, because I have a ag employment recruitment kind of thing that I started too. But we were talking about the job description for a rancher is illogical. You start looking at all the disciplines. Nobody qualifies for that. That wasn't born doing it. Nobody. And so we take one thing off your plate. We'll give you a yes or a no here. And you don't have to pour through 15 pages of data to get answers. And you don't have to know everything. You just have to know somebody that does.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, when I want someone to come in, soil test my fields, and tell me what fertilizers to put down, right? I want somebody, a nutritionist, to come in and tell me what I need to feed my cows, what minerals I need to use, all this stuff, right? But we expect commercial breeders to be experts in genetics, right? I want a veterinarian to come in and tell me what animal health products I need to use. These commercial guys want a genetics person to come in and tell them which animals to keep and how to breed them. A lot of the times,
the ones that are really thinking about it. Nobody's any good at something if they only do it once a year.
Yeah.
Like golf for you.
That's right. You play golf with me. But I have a lot of fun doing it.
I have a lot of fun. And I think that's the problem, because when I go to bull sales, people have a lot of fun too. But if we can give them a roadmap, they can go have a lot of fun and do a better job. And And the seed stock providers love the idea of getting more tightly tied to their bull customers. And they love the idea, too, of these bulls come with greater security and less risk for your particular cow herd than if you just went in and bought the biggest, stoutest bull you saw and fell in love with them.
Or the highest priced or whatever.
Or whatever it was.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever it was.
There's nothing greater than seeing your cattle grazing on lush green pasture.
Oh yeah, and nothing ruins that view like weeds and brush soaking up all the moisture and nutrients. Regardless of precipitation, we have to take care of our pastures. It doesn't rain grass.
The passion for cattle ranching starts early. So should the protection. Let's keep our pastures in good hands with Corteva Agriscience. To learn more, visit rangeandpasture.com.
Yeah, what I like about it is you can just test 25. You know, if you want to dip your toe in, you know, you can come there and test 25.
Yep.
So, and it still works with the breed associations, and you know that's been a key part of I think your success is it's like hand in hand with the associations and how much you see them still as a part of the industry and key part, but yet you want to give those insights that come out of the back of it.
I completely agree. And we've been we're run through the mill about you're just starting a breed association. You're going to hurt the breeders. We are the biggest supporters of the breed associations that there are. Our organization supports breed association more than any other organization outside the breed association does, and we still have to hear about it from time to time. And I ain't listening anymore. It's just like, listen, we're just going to keep doing business. You're our most important service provider, so do your job and do it well, and we will continue to work with you for as long as you do. Fair?
Well, and they play a role for that small producer, and they're just absolutely critical.
They play a role for large producers.
But they can't go to every single cow calf and take what Jim was just talking about and take that data and make it an insight for that specific cow calf operation. They don't have the teams to do it.
They can't give suggestions. They can't do those I mean, the idea of breed association, we've talked to a couple about it. You can't do precision matings because if you do, you're going to alienate everybody that wasn't at the top of that list. The owners of the bull that's fifth on the list, not going to be happy with you. In our business, we're outside the breed association. We just try to do the right thing every day, and you guys do what you do. We'll do what we do, and we'll be fine. I mean, the idea of precision agriculture is in every other part of agriculture except the beef industry. Every single one, except maybe organic asparagus.
Yeah,
that might not be. They might not have precision organic asparagus.
But it's like I think the interesting thing is like it almost feels we're at a tipping point on that though. Like I know you say that, but like, you know, with a lot of our customers, and I know we're dealing with people who are really thinking about this in terms of the phenotype and the data capture, the number that have gone from just testing stuff that might be pedigree to testing their females to now testing all their females to now testing even their steers is like, which 10 years ago, who would have thought we're going to be genomically testing steers that are coming out? Like you just wouldn't have even considered it.
No, and like I said, the mating program, takes and ties the complementary genomic profiles together and still uses the EPD and information, still uses the inbreeding, still does all the other things and accounts for what you want. I want a big bull. I want a small bull, whatever it is you want, but it keeps you out of the ditch, with everything else. And one other misconception is a planned mating is not precision agriculture. Half the sire's EPDs and half the dam's EPDs. That is not a precision mating. That is just a really nice guess about what the next generation is going to be in aggregate.
You're involved in a lot of things. Where does the AGR go from here?
We've been talking about that for about the last 12 hours and with staff probably the last year. We're going to get deeper into the data collection loop, databasing business, because we are, our goal long-term is to be involved with supply chain or chains, and we've got to be able to tie that together with data. That's how you tie that together. And so that's our next push is to do those kind of things. We've built a genetic product that is substantially different than the population, evaluated by the people that evaluate those populations. And now it's time to take that population and use it to help the entire beef industry make more money. I think that's one thing in it. Everybody has their own businesses. Everybody tends their own garden. But my philosophy has always been that if you think, and I don't even know what the number is this year because it's huge, but the beef business in the United States is about $150 billion a year, somewhere plus or minus 20. And the only way that everybody in that business can be more successful is if we take it from 150 to 155. Shrinking it and me taking it from you and you taking it from me doesn't work. The pie has to be bigger. Otherwise, the entire system can't be functional and can't do the things that they want to do. So our programs, even though we're a relatively small organization, our program is designed to add to that pie, take cost out and add income to that pie. And so anything we can do, like being more involved with systems, farther down chain, try to get more value from the genetics that we've produced and that our customers make, that's anything like that has to be in our future and in our future plan. And that's our primary future plan right now. And that's part of the reason we're here talking to Breeder and talking to other organizations is how are we going to get more deeply involved and not just be purebred breeders, which is not that it doesn't work anymore. You've got to be full service genetic providers. And because our job is to provide genetics for the larger beef industry and for the food industry. That is our job. All the other stuff is noise. Some of it's fun noise. Some of it's not fun noise. But that's our number one job. And that was what, back to the pig business, that's where we failed, was that we didn't consider that we actually had a professional, important, and crucial job to keep our customers and the rest of the pork industry in business. And we just had fun and did what we wanted to do. And that was a fatal flaw, and not interested in having that happen again.
More than that, it's like, you had those mongrel pigs or the crossbreds that you were talking about, which there was a few big people that ended up building up that who had the...
This is how old I am. The first time that we crossbred pigs at my house, people wondered what we were doing.
Yeah.
That's how old I am. I mean, it's hard to believe, but it's just like, you're a Chester white breeder. What are you doing with those blue butts?
Yeah.
No, I said, I don't know, but they're wiping up the floor of our purebred pigs are growing twice as fast and doing everything else right. And you may even get a chance to visit about crossbreeding, things like that, which is the number one technology we take advantage of that doesn't cost us anything. And but that's how long I've been fiddling and farting around in this thing, is that I remember when our neighbors didn't like the fact we crossbred a hog. Now they're all that way.
Yeah.
Well, it's sure nice to come full circle in the conversation back to the hog business. And like I said, we appreciate you joining us on the Future Beef Show, and I look forward to seeing you down the road sometime.
We'll see how I guess. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. It's time for Ian, Jess, and I to go behind the beef. So enjoyed that one. It's always good to bring Marty in and have a conversation. He's really thinking about things and thinking about the beef industry and what it looks like to improve it.
I think for a long time, we've looked at genetics and genomics as being strictly within the seed stock sector, right? And as we move further and further along in the beef industry, I think it's pretty critical that, some of our commercial producers start looking toward those scientific opportunities as well, right? And those more biological opportunities. It's not just this bull looks good on paper, so I'm going to breed it to my 20 cows who I have no idea what their genetic makeup is, really. I can guess based on the color of them from a crossbreeding herd, but I think it's cool to know that, we have a product that we can offer to commercial producers now to help them try and capitalize on value on what they're already doing.
Yeah, I think that's well said, Jess. It's it's exciting to see where Marty's come from and, how he's learnt from some of those, call them mistakes of the industry when he was in pork, and now how he can help the beef industry not fall into those same traps. In some ways, beef has followed dairy and followed pork and followed a lot of these areas, but, now how do we take the good things but not the bad things that came out of that? I think it's really great that he's thinking about that. I think when I listen to this, and obviously I see some of our customers all really progressing along this line into commercial and starting the genomics side. The thing that keeps me up at night is how do we not leave people alone? Leave people behind, because the genetic improvement that people working with Marty are making year on year is just outpacing those people that aren't. And so how do we make sure the people who aren't have the ability for to make it accessible for them, to not be scared of trying something new in terms of like doing. I think what I like is, Marty, but also his team, like Leoma, who I know well, like they're very approachable people, and you can go and learn from them, and it's not scary to try something new. And I think that's what I like around what they've done with that business. I know, Jim, with what you do at Zoetis, obviously, genomics, you're selling genomics, but that can sometimes be I'm going to a big company to buy a genomic SNP, and then what do I do with it? And like what they add is that insight and that service behind it, which is sort of needed, because a lot of this is an education in terms of doing.
Yeah, I think, for me, there's a lot of good breeders in multiple breeds, right? And, that have growth, that have marbling, that have those big, highly heritable traits, right? And what Marty and his group do is try to fine tune that, add other, valuable traits, but then they take it to the next level as far as providing service to those customers, right? And I think, that's really the differentiator between that group and maybe an average seed stock producer or whatever is that service model that they built into this now that helps you get more for your cows, helps you get more for your bulls, helps you make better matings, all those things are important service things that add value to those customers. And that's not something that is intuitively available in the beef industry.
Well, like we said, you'll get an agronomist in for doing your soil, and you'll get a vet in for doing your health. Like, it was such a simple comment, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, why for breeding as a commercial producer don't we get a geneticist in to help us with breeding? It drives more money and more return than nearly any other part of the farm or, ranch. And yet, yeah, you think of all these other areas and we have a specialist. So, yeah, that was a real, it was just well put. I hadn't thought about it like that. And it's like, yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. Good episode.
Good episode. It was good to see Marty again.
Yeah, it was good to see Marty. It's good to have dinner last night. So good to catch up with him. He's always got some good thoughts.
That's it for this episode of the Future of Beef Show. And a big thank you to our guest for joining us and sharing their experience and insights on this topic. Hit the subscribe button for more great episodes like this one. If you want to dig deeper into what you heard today, head over to futureofbeef.com, where you'll find free resources and helpful links. Don't forget, we'll pick one listener to win this exclusive Future of Beef Yeti Cooler. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram and drop us a message for a chance to win. Until next time, keep your boots on the ground and your eyes on the future.